Today's topic is the ever-popular Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't think I really need to explain why I think this would be a good VR game, but just in case, I think that a lot of the systems would port over to VR really well. Being able to swing a sword or to climb, all of those are things that have been done in VR, but with a Legend of Zelda polish to it. Another benefit is that it's backed by Nintendo, which is an absolutely massive company, so there's pretty much no risk in terms of losing money, since they have plenty of money to lose. And arguably the biggest reason is because they have a gigantic name awareness. So if something like Legend of Zelda came to VR, you can bet your bottom dollar that that's going to get some heads turned. Moving on, today I'm going to break it up into 6 main ideas. There's going to be the climbing and stamina system, the combat system, the weapon system, which is slightly different, the cooking system, the house system, and the mount system. Mount being like the horses that you can ride, just in case you needed clarification on that. So number 1 is the climbing and stamina system. This system is pretty much perfect for VR. I wouldn't change too much about it, and I definitely wouldn't even dream of removing it. It would cause the players to slow down and experience the world more, which is really important in a VR game, especially when the game is about exploring to begin with. My only real input is 2 things. 1, and that's a suggestion to remove the swimming stamina, just because it kind of acts more as a nuisance than an enhancement to the experience of the game. And the second thing is a suggestion for the controls. I think it would be really cool if you put your hands above your head in order to pull out the paraglider, rather than pressing a button. I think it would just be way more immersive, and really kind of a fun little detail. There wasn't much to that, but moving on, number 2 is the combat system. Now that I'm going over this, a lot of these are really just kind of small things, because most of the game pretty much would work point to point in VR. You would just have to make it a VR perspective. But, moving on, my suggestion is just to have the weapons and shields work as you would expect. When you swing the sword, it swings. If you hold the shield, you can block. When you use the bow, you draw it like you would in any other game with a bow, in VR anyway. But I think it would be really cool if you could have the slow-mo be activated at any time, rather than just when you're falling. You could have it be another one of your abilities on your Sheikah Slate, which, by the way, I think that Sheikah Slate should be on your hip, and you can reach down and grab it, selecting the ability you want to use as if it were a smartphone screen. The slow-mo ability would probably be the only one that you can use while in combat. The others you would have to actually have the slate out, so you wouldn't be able to use your weapons and abilities at the same time. I also think having some sort of combo system in the game would really add to the experience, on top of maybe having a little more effects for each time you hit an enemy. You know, it gleams or sparkles, just to let you know that you did something. Basically, just embellish it a little more than what was in the base game, just because it's a little more fun in VR to see those things. I also forgot to mention at the beginning that you could still throw your weapons. I'm not sure how that would exactly work. I imagine you'd maybe have to press the trigger or something like that, and that would make it so that you could prime the weapon to be thrown, because a lot of people will probably swing really wide, and so if you have it be behind you or something like that, then you might accidentally swing, but throw your weapon instead, which could be pretty frustrating, I think. But let's not forget the most important thing, and that is shield surfing. Similar to the paraglider, I think it'll be cool if you can physically jump and hold the shield underneath you in order to activate the shield surfing. Again, it would be really immersive and add a little more detail to the game than just pressing a button, since that's kind of the heart of what VR is, doing it yourself, not pressing a button. But on to number 3, and that is the weapon system. I definitely think that the VR system should add 3 things. I think they should add a crafting system for the weapons and shields. I think they should add a repair system for them. And I also think that they should add a visible durability bar on the weapons and shields that you can check maybe by looking at your wrist of the weapon that you have equipped. I also miscounted, and there's actually 4 things, and the 4th thing that I think they should add is an oar, so that you can row the boats that are around the map. My final detail for the weapon system is a little bit of a questionable one that kind of pairs with the housing system that I'll get to later, and that is maybe limit the weapon inventory size to either 1, 2, or maybe 3 weapons max. I'll get to why a little bit later. But moving on to the 4th system, and that is the cooking system. I think it doesn't come as any surprise that I think instead of going into your inventory and holding the items, pressing a button to drop them, and then having it cook in front of you, I think that you should manually stir the ingredients so the player gets to determine how long you cook it for, and maybe you even have like a cookbook that you can fill in with the various recipes and such. I think a really unique feature would also be that maybe cooking attracts monsters. So if you're cooking your meal up because you have low health, you could attract that Lionel that's just over the valley. I think it would be a really cool experience and add way more depth to the game. As I always like saying, more depth is what VR needs. But moving on to number 5, and that is the house system. First and foremost, because this is VR, you of course need to have a mirror in your house so you can see how you look as the hero of Hyrule. Of course, I would add a lot more customizability to the house, as it was pretty lacking in the base game, which is honestly kind of a shame. And part of that customizability, I think they should add a more in-depth storage system. Which brings me back around to my point from earlier about maybe limiting how many weapons that you can actually carry on your person. Because with this system, you would be able to store way more weapons in your house, and it would give you an excuse to actually go to your house. And once again, from another point, it would make you explore more, when that is pretty much the name of the game. Since you both have to make your way back to your house, and presumably off to wherever you need to go. But on to the final thing, and that is the mount system, also referred to as riding a horse. This one honestly comes down to mostly just quality of life changes. First, to prevent motion sickness, I think that they should just cut the taming altogether so that you do not need to tame a horse. It's just instantly bonded with you. Furthermore, I think there should be a setting so that you could turn off bobbing, or maybe have there be like a smooth setting for when you're mounting it and when you're riding it. Because if the camera just suddenly throws you into an animation where you're mounting the horse, it could be a little disorienting. And then once you're actually on the horse, if it's bumping up and down, again, that could cause motion sickness. I don't think you should remove those things altogether. I just think that you should have an option for it. The final thing is really just a personal preference, and I think it would be cool if you could set a travel path, or if you could use your Sheikah slate to set a pin and have the horse automatically walk to it for you. As fun as riding a horse is for a little bit, it does get a little bit old, and I think that just having it do it for you is probably the best bet. That way you can kind of just look around the world and not have to worry about where you are actually going. So that's all that I have for this, but let me just leave you with one final thing. Imagine climbing up Mount Lanayru, getting to the peak, and turning around and just look at the sprawl of Hyrule in front of you. I think that experience would be absolutely amazing, both for all of the fans of the series and just VR enthusiasts in general.